Welcome back to the Global Freedom Report. I'm your host, Brent Johnson, and welcome to our monthly roundtable event. Every month we have a panel, a group of panelists, a bunch of guests on a particular topic who basically talk and dialogue with you and with me on issues of concern to us all. And this month, we're going to talk about broadcasting in many, many different forms. My first guest is Raylyn Allen. She is the publisher of Rumor Mill News, a news network with more than 150 journalists and commentators worldwide and one of the most popular alternative news websites on the Internet. Rumor Mill News was started in 1996 as a print magazine, then went on the web in January 98. It will celebrate its 15-year anniversary this June. Raylyn is the author of the Obergon Chronicles and Diana, Queen of Heaven, The New World Religion. Her fascination was and still is with the Knights Templar. She is the host of Rumor Mill News Radio, heard right here on the Micro Effect Broadcast Radio Network, right before the Global Freedom Report. Raylyn Allen, welcome to the Global Freedom Report.
Well, thank you, Brent, for inviting me to be on this show. I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to be talking about, though, so you're going to have to give me an idea of why I'm here.
Well, you're here to participate in the discussion, and believe me, I'll be asking questions. You just need to answer from your heart and from your honesty what I put your way. Actually, I want to congratulate you on the upcoming 15th anniversary of Rumor Mill News. I'm curious, people today appear to always be willing to jump on any conspiracy bandwagon. I mean, does the presence of so many conspiracy theorists make it more difficult for you to sift through the rumors to hopefully find what's valid and what's not?
Well, believe it or not, I don't even look at news as conspiracy anymore, because when you compare what is on the Internet to what is in the mainstream media, it's sort of like we know the mainstream media isn't telling us the truth, never has, never will, because they're owned by the very people that want to see a one world order slave state going back to the feudal days. And they've almost got us there, quite honestly. But I can barely I can't wrap my brain around conspiracy anymore. And I'm the original conspiracy queen. There was a fellow from the Chicago Tribune who was given a task to track down all the conspiracy people and find the one that was, numero uno. And so this was probably around 1998. Eric Lipton, who now works for the Washington Post, is the man that did it. And I came out the number one conspiracy queen. And, at that time, I did not mind being called a conspiracy theorist. And the reason I didn't mind being called a conspiracy theorist is I knew, from personal meetings with, like, the director of the CIA or a four-star admiral who was in charge of, who was the number two man, the director of covert operation with the CIA. So when I actually have information from men like this that the rest of the media calls conspiracy, well, then naturally I know it's not conspiracy. I know that there are powerful interests in the world that don't want the little people to know anything. And so as I said, I can no longer get my head around the term conspiracy because I know that the mainstream media, that's where the lies come from. And if you sift through the Internet every now and then, or if you're listening to talk radio, you're going to hear the truth.
And that's a fair answer. Thank you. Our second panelist is Roger Fredenberg. He never set out to be a broadcaster. One night, the successful young sales executive called a local radio talk show to share his feelings. His penetrating, passionate words melted the station's phone lines with reactions. Roger was subsequently recruited to call again, became a regular guest, and then host of his own show. His ear-catching baritone, passionate honesty, surprising humor, and intuitive genius for getting to the heart of issues and people over the years have resonated with huge audiences in more than 200 markets. Roger speaks with an energetic, independent voice that magnetically attracts young and old, men and women alike. He has never lost touch with his working-class roots or with more than 1 million listeners in America's heartland who think of him as radio's regular guy. Unlike many talking heads, Roger actually walked the walk before talking the talk. Roger Fredenberg, welcome to the Global Freedom Report. Roger, considering that you never intended to be a radio show host, how did you end up involved in the freedom movement? Was that first call to a local radio station on some rights-related issue?
It absolutely was. I was in the middle of the throes of trying to figure out how it was that the government was controlling the economy and creating carnage in and across the land where I lived. I was in the Northwest, and I noticed that our industries were being inundated by lawsuits from people who had no standing in court. And suddenly the fishing industry, the timber industry, most of the natural resources industry, mining, aggregate, etc., were being shuttered, and the folks were being left in the lurch. And I lived in an area that had something called the ONC County's Agreement with the federal government, which required the federal government to allow natural resource development on lands that it had essentially stolen from the people in the 30s. So not only does the county, because of, and it's called in lieu of taxation, this ONC County's Agreement, because of the fact that we had this contract with the federal government and they had breached the contract, I was just incensed that so many people were out of work and struggling, and it was all because people were not holding the federal government up to the contract that they'd signed. So I called into a talk show. They were discussing the timber industry at some point, and I began to, kind of bellow about my concerns about what I saw going on. And suddenly I was invited to come in studio to be a guest. And then later I was taken from that radio station over to a KOPE-FM, which was the big launch for the Art Bell show.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I ended up launching with Art Bell.
So no like broadcasting degrees or anything like that. You're just a regular guy.
That's exactly it.
Excellent. Yeah. Our final panelist is Mr. Britt. He is 32 years old, currently lives in the Netherlands, but intends to return to his home country of England this summer to continue his activism in broadcasting. Mr. Britt breaks down New World Order globalization news and critically analyzes the lies and manipulations of our governments and the criminal financial elite. He is an activist and researcher who broadcasts suppressed news and alternative views. The Mr. Britt Show airs every Friday at 2000 hours. It's 8 p.m. Greenwich time on Resistance Radio Network. Mr. Britt, welcome to the Global Freedom Report.
Hi, Brent. Thanks very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I take it you're not a cold weather person. The Netherlands and England.
How do you mean? Sorry.
Is that why you're in the Netherlands? Is it warmer there than England this time of year?
Oh, no, it's exactly the same. No, there's no warmer here, no.
Did I take it back? Now, no offense intended, but I consider 32 to be relatively young for a freedom activist. If I only knew what I know today when I was 32, what I could have accomplished. How did you become involved in New World Order reporting and activism at such a relatively young age?
Okay, I mean, there are people that are far younger than me, so I don't really consider myself to be young in this movement, but basically what got me into it was the invasion of Iraq, and I realized that this was, an imperial agenda to illegally invade a country and to dominate the Middle East for, the natural resources and for the strategic location, basically. So that's basically when I woke up and I started digging into things, and that's when I got into 9/11 and basically went, further down the rabbit hole.
Well, it's good to have you on board, no question about that. So let's start off, and I'd like each of you to respond to these questions. We'll start with Ray Lynn. What are your objectives as a broadcaster? How do you entertain, educate, and or inspire your audience? What is it you hope to accomplish by being on the air?
I guess that I want to impart the truth that I discovered personally and the truth that my guests have discovered. I have an eclectic bunch of guests. We have John Loftus on, who is one of the, let's just say that he was able to tell us yesterday what was going to happen in Egypt today. He's very tuned in to, what's going on in the world, and has written, quite a number of books. He's just one of the examples of the people that I believe have their pulse on the political, worldwide political pulse. But we don't live by politics alone. We don't live by murder alone. I mean, I never want to have a show where if it bleeds, it leads, that sort of thing. And because I realize that a human being is more than just politics, more than wars, more than murders, we cover breakthrough information in the fields of medicine, psychology, astrology, astronomy. We do quite a bit on 2012. We're still trying to figure out what it is. And, what should I say? Our Wednesday show is probably one of the most hard-hitting shows exposing the City of London monsters. They're not even humans anymore. The City of London monsters for what they really are, and the horror and the evil that these people do to make their vassals stay vassals for them. And, because I was married to the number 3 man in the CIA, and before him I was married to the Dean of Science and Engineering at the Naval Postgraduate School, where I had dinner with people like Gerald Ford and Donald Rumsfeld and all of the military generals of China that Jimmy Carter sent to the Naval Postgraduate School and told the admiral in charge of the school, give them anything they want. So do you hear what I'm saying? And this was in the mid-'70s. That Jimmy Carter ordered the men at the Naval Postgraduate School, which is an R&D place, research and development place for the Navy, to open everything to the Chinese. So everybody needs to know that Bill Clinton was not the first one to sell everything to the Chinese. I think it started with Jimmy Carter, and I don't think it ever stopped.
That's fair. Let's stop there for a moment, because I want to give the others a chance to respond similarly and not get too off on a tangent on it, but thank you. Roger, you're next. Your objectives. Yeah. I mean, why radio? Why broadcast airwaves? And what is it you want to achieve and obviously have wanted to achieve, because you've been around for a while and such? What are your objectives as a broadcaster?
Well, I mean, I go back to my original bumper moniker, which was simply this: defending America against the spirit of stupidity. What I found is that generally people are really stupid. Going back to the, Dewey and Skinnerian teachings in schools, we've caused people to be raised now, multiple generations of people who don't have the critical thinking power of an ant. These are folks who don't understand that, like sheep being led to slaughter, they are being manipulated, controlled, and completely and totally oblivious are these people to what's going on around them. And so my mission was to try and help people see through, by taking the news stories and the issues of the day, to see through this veil of stupidity, these scales on our eyes that keep us from recognizing when we're about to be fleeced.